as you all know, Outland is a mess. To put it lightly, it is floating in the twisted nether, gravity and time doesn't work as it should, it is being picked apart by all sorts of bad guys from all across the universe. Some parts of the planet are falling apart, some have completely disappeared. However, at the same time, we know a lot of progress has been made since we left. We know a lot of the bad guys were defeated, we stopped the Legion, we stopped the Void problems, the Naga, the Elves, and we even sort of know some have returned to live here to restore their old homes. We have seen this echo biomes being created to save at least parts of the destroyed planet. So is there actually any hope for Outland? Could we get some cosmological being to save it? Could we create one massive, magically powered echo biome to artificially turn Outland into a functioning planet? Could we somehow connect Altered Draenor to Outland to find a cure? Is Outland doomed and left to fall apart? And is there any hope whatsoever? If you guys are looking to buy Dragonflight or anything Warcraft related, Gamivo has some amazing sales that you can check out with my link. On top of that, you can get software, gift cards, various games at crazy prices. Best of all, you can use my code DORON to add yet another discount to your purchase, so make sure to click my link below, check out Gamivo, and grab some amazing deals. To say that Outland is a mess is really an understatement, and anyone that has played WoW for more than a little bit knows this. Blizzard literally created Alternate Draenor back in Worlds of Draenor, which is a really unique opportunity to compare what this peaceful planet used to look like and what it is today. However, things have really changed over the years, and based on the updates, the planet is actually different than what it was back when we visited it 15 years ago during TBC. For example, we know most of the demonic influence was removed. Illidan is no longer around with his demon hunters and his operations. A bunch of those monsters and bad guys were defeated, and even the Fel Orcs are all but completely extinct. However, let's not kid ourselves, the place is still incredibly dangerous. However, some have actually returned to live here despite the kinda catastrophic forecast that is there. We have, for example, seen Troll come back to Nagrand, and we know certain areas of the destroyed planet are in better shape than others. Nagrand is leading the way here, even resembling quite significantly what it used to look like, but as we had learned from Saurfang in that cinematic, a big part of that is actually an illusion. We can see that there is grain, but it is essentially just disappears to touch, and the hard reality is that Outland at this point in time is actually doomed, and it is quite literally falling apart in real time before our eyes. However, the question is, can this process actually be altered, and is it going to happen? Now, destruction itself came about with the Orcish Horde, and when Ner'zhul decided to open so many portals that he literally tore the planet apart. We have the official description of this happening. The sky burned, the continents ripped apart, lava flowed, wild magic danced from mountain peak to mountain peak. Sometimes the tips of mountains rose into air and floated away. Sometimes they crashed down and killed thousands. Now, all of us can see the results of this, but there is more to this than just zones being reshaped. This is not the Sundering or the Cataclysm of Azeroth. This is 10 times worse. The biggest issue is that the concept of Draenor as a planet was destroyed, like the atmosphere was blown away, and what remained of the world started floating around in the twisting nether. This floating aspect made a really bad situation 10 times worse. Not only was most of life wiped away and there was significant scarcity of resources, but now you had demons, ethereals, void beings, and all sorts of just these monstrosities jumping in whenever they wish, and that created a really dangerous place as all of them had their own agenda and they wanted a piece of the planet. This significant aspect was sort of resolved in a way as we defeated some, stopped some, but the thing about Outland is that it is still floating, and demons, not the Burning Legion but regular demons, are more than likely still coming in and out. However, the biggest and the most major issue is that Outland is no longer a planet in the conventional sense. We were told that Outland lost its sun, which may or may not be completely true as there was some sunlight. However, the moon known as the Pale Lady did remain, although it appears far larger than what it was back when it was Draenor, and you can see all sorts of planets just giving light to Outland as it is. Thing is, though, the gravity is all out of whack in some places, time itself doesn't function properly, and we have continents that are quite literally falling apart, as in places are just disappearing into nothingness, into oblivion. So the question is, with the recent updates and changes to the lore, is it actually likely that Draenor could be saved and brought back to at least function properly? Is there a force to do it? And even if there is Outland just doomed and not worth saving, as it is irrelevant at this point in time. So to start off, I'd approach this in two ways, and we have two major things we need to solve. First, we need to make the place a lot less dangerous and more habitable, and then we could start figuring out about, making the sun work, not have it float in the twisted nether, and these are two very different problems with two very different solutions. The good news is that on the first part, we have actually made a really significant amount of progress. We got rid of the Naiga that were siphoning the already scarce water supply and making the scarcity even worse. We got rid of Kiltus and the Blood Elves that were messing with the arcane and causing even more damage than it was necessary. We got rid of the Burning Legion and their organization, meaning that the demons that invade now are probably just going to be lone marauders, sort of like bandits, instead of an organized army, so it is a much smaller problem and much easier to deal with. Then we got rid of most of the remnants of the Dark Horde, as the Fel Orcs, for example, are nearly all extinct. We know Black Dragons got control over Blade's Edge Mountains and they're now our allies with Sabellian, so we could get a good entry point there. We know there have been some rebuilding efforts with Orcs and Draenei returning, and even Akama sort of working on rebuilding the Black Temple, so overall there has been a significant amount of progress of making Outland less dangerous in just the span of a single decade, or maybe a little bit more. The thing is though, I think some parts have a significant chance of actually being saved, and some are just beyond saving in most cases. For example, Nether Storm, in my opinion, is kinda just hopeless. Maybe even Hellfire Peninsula is just a barren land. However, for example, Zangarmarsh, Blade's Edge, and Nagrand are pretty good candidates for functioning properly, as these zones still have a functioning flora and fauna and a significant bit of life with some pretty good resources to make that life work. This now brings us to the second part of saving Outland process, and that is fixing the planet, which realistically is a lot more significant undertaking than picking apart the present threats. We have never actually seen a planet restored in WoW lore, although on the other side we never really found such half-destroyed planets as is the case with Outland. For example, we encountered Argus, which was just completely scorched, completely destroyed. We've learned about ruined planets, but we've never seen these half-planets like Outland, so we don't really know if there is any precedent in this in saving a half-dead planet. The good news is that the Ethereals, which are super powerful creatures, showed us that creating an Echo Dome is possible and they can preserve life. We had seen this in Netherstorm, but they created an artificially, magically empowered biome that actually worked pretty well. This wasn't just some house-sized illusion trick, this was a pretty significant part of the zone, and we had seen this work really well as they even started importing other life beings into Outland. Now, if the Ethereals themselves did this, I don't see us doing the same thing being impossible. I mean, we could potentially cover an entire zone with a much larger Echo Dome if we invest more resources. The bad news is that I don't know if any character powerful enough to create or import such magic to power this on a different planet through a portal. We could potentially get the help of the Ethereals, but what source of the Ethereals would be able to do this, we don't really know. At this point in time, I only see cosmological beings that order planets, such as the Titans or the first ones being able to restore Outland and turn it back into Draenor as it was. Who knows, maybe Sargeras gets repenting for his sins and then he uses his powers for good and he just reshapes Outland. The thing is though, realistically, Blizzard could do it if they wanted to, like they can find a way, but the second part of the equation is what would they really need to do, like what would be the reason to do such a thing, and how relevant is Outland really in the present day? At the moment, it isn't at all, but that's not to say it can't be in the near future. Personally, at this point in time, I can't see us just going to restore Outland, but I could see a potential thing with the Light and the Alternate Draenor. We know Alternate Draenor has the essence of Old Draenor, but at the same time it is conquered by the allied army. If something happens with this, I could totally see a possibility of combining the timelines, especially with the current time travel shenanigans, the Bronze Dragons, and somehow combining Alternate Draenor with Outland to make one single timeline and restore the planet, which would be awesome and it could definitely work. On the other hand, it could also create a whole bunch of other consistency issues. So yeah, it definitely isn't relevant at this point in time, but beings from Outland such as the Orcs or the Draenei could definitely be invested into such an effort. We could maybe get a good start instead of an instant transformation in a single expansion. We could potentially get something akin to the Argent Crusade in their efforts of cleansing the Plaguelands. There could be a group with a focus of restoring and repopulating Outland and eventually turning it into Draenor, and this could even be turned into a potential expansion in the future. Thank you for watching. Check out What Is This New World 3 in Dragonflight by clicking on the screen, and check out Ono's Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time.